you've landed us after so many sort of gamine, elegant books with this kind of lap cracker. 900 odd pages.
Don't drop it on your foot. That's the only advice I can give you.
Paul Auster's new novel had to be big because it imagines one man's life 4 different ways. The writer's been preoccupied with the unexpected turns our lives can take since a tragedy involving a thunderstorm at summer camp when he was just 14.
The boy directly in front of me, in other words, his feet were about that far from my head, as he was halfway through the fence, lightning struck the barbed wire, electrocuted him on the spot. I didn't know he was dead. I had never seen a dead person. So I crawled beside him and I pulled him into the meadow, and I stayed with him for an hour trying to warm him up. And that was the moment when I understood that anything can happen to anybody at any time. And it's an experience that has haunted me all my life. I've thought about it probably every day. It was the single most important thing that ever happened to me.
The multiple lives of Auster's protagonist Ferguson unfold against the events of the mid-20th century.
Those were the only 2 subjects that seemed to exist anymore, Ferguson wrote in a letter to his aunt and uncle in California. The expanding bloodshed in Vietnam and the civil rights movement at home. White America at war with the yellow people of Southeast Asia. White America in conflict with its own black citizens who were more and more in conflict with themselves. For the movement that had already split into factions was splitting further into factions of factions, and perhaps even factions of factions of factions, everyone in conflict with everyone else, the lines drawn so sharply that few dared step over them anymore. Well, we seem to be in that state right now in the United States again, and it is eerie how 50 years later we're living through a new wave of racial problems and another divided country, and suddenly, after the election, a new wave of activism that had not happened in this country, in our country, since that period of my book, the 60s.
Auster told Newsnight last year that he had no time for Donald Trump, the candidate. We wondered what the president's whirlwind start had done for the writer's mood.
My daughter showed me the tape of our interview, my interview with the BBC just before, and I looked like a man in a state of panic, and I was stuttering in ways that I don't normally when I'm talking to somebody, and I kept saying, he can win, he can win. Well, I was right to be scared, and I am, well, along with millions and millions and millions of other people in America, I feel as if I'm living in a nightmare, and we've gotten somebody who is, I think, deranged. He's a demented, incompetent, unqualified person.
In British terms, could there be a sense that this is a class thing? That he's the brash, vulgar guy who's turned up on the street with his funny hair and his gold bathroom, and he just offends delicate sensibilities?
Perhaps. I mean, he has a demonic talent for inciting crowds and getting people to listen to him. His gibberish, it's utter nonsense that comes out of his mouth, and yet he has his loyal followers who are loving everything he's doing right now. But no, more seriously, what he is proposing to do is dismantle American society, and the choice of his cabinet posts proves this.
But isn't some of this alarmism? I mean, we were hearing that Trump has no sympathy for NATO, but actually he's appointed people who are pro-NATO and has now said that he appears to support it.
You never know what he thinks, because one day he says one thing and the next day he says another. He's contradicting himself continually, and I don't think he even knows what he thinks.
Auster's in favour of national service in the States to help bring the country together again. In the meantime, what opposition can Trump expect from the novelists?
It's too soon to, certainly for novelists, fiction writers, way too soon. I mean, I look at War and Peace, which was published in 1870, and it's written about 1812 to 1815. I don't know if...
Well, Trump will be dead on that basis.
That's true, or the novel I've just published. I mean, it's about things that happened 50 years ago. I don't know. I'm sure, yes, there could be immediate responses, but I think art is slower than that.
Political leaders come and go, but revisiting the 50s and 60s for his new novel has encouraged a tendency in Auster to take the long view.
I mean, the big things that we go through in life, I think, finally are the deaths of the people we love. But everyone goes through this, and it's wrenching. It tears us apart. And as you get older, you start living with ghosts, and I'm surrounded by ghosts now. I talk to the dead as much as I talk to the living. These are the great aches and sorrows of any human life, is saying goodbye to people you don't want to say goodbye to. So what can we do? This is how things work. You know, you have to accept it.